Alright, what is going on, everybody? Quan Credible here to bring you a video that I honestly forgot to make. I've been meaning to make this video for a really long time, and it wasn't until this guy, I'll show him, Shotgun Pro 66 in the comments, he commented about him ranking the captains, and I thought to myself, why have I not done this yet? This is like a video that I feel like as a Black Clover YouTuber I should have been done, so that's my bad. That is my bad. So I will be bringing you this right now. I will say I don't even know how long this is going to be, so I'm going to apologize in advance because I can already tell this is going to be a long video. But before I get into it, I want you guys to go and sub to my boy Josuke D Live. We do live streams on there all the time. I frequent them all the time. A lot of you guys probably remember the lives on my channel if you're like newer, and if you're older you're probably already there, so just make sure you are subscribed to Josuke because we do like 1 or 2 lives every week full of a bunch of Black Clover creators, Black Clover content creators and like Twitter people and all that other stuff. We just talk about chapters and just talk about Black Clover in general, so make sure you guys sub to his channel so you guys can join in on the lives. But yes, into my ranking the captains. So of course I'm going to do all the captains, including Mario and Kaiser or Gildre, whichever one you count. I'm going to be doing all 13, and the list is going to be their overall strength. Now, of course, as a disclaimer, I'm going to put this big on the screen so everybody can see it. This is my opinion. This is not fact. If you disagree, that is fine. We can talk about it in the comments because I already know my list is going to be controversial. I'm also going to do a separate list. I'll do that list after this one. I'll put it at the end of the video. If it's too long, I'll make another video for it. But it's going to be like just a best supporting captain. So almost like just a captain you would want to have in like a battle or like a war setting. Like say 2 kingdoms were going against each other, you'd want this captain here more than that one. Kind of how they would perform in like more of a war or general team-based scenario versus just overall strongest in like a one-on-one scenario, not necessarily them fighting each other, but just a one-on-one fight. So with that, the biggest components to my list, outside of my opinion, would definitely be feats. Feats are super important. Like what the character has done in the series is really important. That I would argue that should be the most important. Portrayal, I think how the character is portrayed in the story is also really important. So looking at it from a narrative standpoint, just how strong does the story make them out to be. And then of course slight scaling. You got to have a little bit of scaling in there. I'm not a power scaler, but you do got to have a little bit of scaling in there. So enough of this preface, into the list. So at the very bottom at number 11, no shocker to anybody, or actually probably controversial already, as the weakest captain, I have Gildre. So my reasoning for saying that Gildre is the weakest captain is because when he was found out by all the other captains to be like helping the Midnight Sun to get in, like how he sold out the barrier people so Rades and them could even get in the first place for the zombie invasion, he ran from everybody, which of course he's up against all the captains. Of course he's going to run. I'm not faulting him for that. But it was the fact that every captain felt like they could capture him. And it was Real. Real was the one who captured him. Granted, Gildre was wrapped up with Asta. But the fact that Real was confident enough to be the first one to go after Gildre makes me believe that Gildre may be weaker than him. Now, if Gildre and Real specifically were to fight, I do think Gildre would probably win. But again, this is overall strength, not necessarily 1v1 if they're fighting each other. So I feel like Real would beat a more variety of opponents than Gildre would. Just because the only thing we've seen from him would be his invisible knights and the fact that he can have magic and things face to him and you can't sense him. That's all we've seen from him. So I mean, the kid is really limited. Assuming that you would be able to avoid him, you can kind of just wait him out. He just hasn't shown anything really impressive to me to make me think that he's stronger than anybody else. So I mean, that's why I got him last. As for number 10, that would be Kaiser. Now Kaiser, all we have on him is just what he did while he was an elf, and Fuegolion noting that he was strong. We know he has vortex magic, which can disrupt other magics. So I think that's, it's a really good magic type to have, like a really underrated one when you think about it. But we just don't really know a lot about him outside of when he was in his elf form. So it's kind of hard to gauge exactly how strong or fast he is. So I got to put him at 10. Just under Real, just because Real at least has something to work with. Like, he just doesn't, like Kaiser just doesn't have feats, and he wasn't portrayed to be stronger than Real. So me, myself, I have no reason to think he's stronger than Real. Again, I think in a 1v1 fight, Kaiser would probably do really well against Real. But like I said before, I think Real would beat a more variety of opponents than Kaiser would. That's what I'm saying. So, gonna keep this moving. Then we're going on. I want to say this is number 9. Will be Real. Real, the youngest captain out of the bunch. The main reason Real is all the way down here is obvious reasons. He's the youngest captain, thus making him the most inexperienced. He's really immature. Like, he lost to Yuno in the crystal exams. Granted, it's not like Yuno beat him in the fight outright, but the fact that he just wasn't paying attention to his own crystal means Real's head is not all the way there with the other captains. I mean, his magic is painting magic, so like you could argue he has one of the more broken magics out of the captains, depending on what you may or may not think he can do. Contrary to popular belief, like me, I believe Real can recreate any attribute just because that is what was stated. Like Walter stated, Real can recreate any attribute. Like, I'll put that panel up right here so you guys can see it. So to me, that leaves no reason why he wouldn't be able to recreate, say, dark magic or spatial magic or whatever magic he wanted, as long as he was able to draw it. I mean, I'm just going off of what was just stated. Outside of like speed or anything like that, we don't really have too many speed feats for Real. I mean, he was able to fight with Yuno in the, like, how the anime really amped up that fight. So we have that, but outside of that, we don't really got nothing outside of his elf form. So it just seems like, you know, if we have more for Real, then I would be more like willing to maybe move him up or something along those lines. You can probably see that's like a theme for the characters that are ranked lower, is I just don't have a lot of information for them. Like, or not information, but we just haven't seen them do a lot in a non-elf state. So yeah, that's why Real's down here at number 9. So, and then coming in at number 8, just this really controversial one, because I know people love to say that this character is super powerful, super strong, one of the strongest characters in the verse, is universal, all this stuff. And number 8 is going to be Dorothy. Granted, if you get inside of her dream world, there is not a lot of characters in the series that can deal with that. That being said, though, we don't really know how fast it is to trap people in it. Like, I mean, you have some people that could argue that it just happens like instantly because of how when she trapped like a lot of the black bulls in there, it just seemed to just happen really, really fast. And you have other people that say she has to like hit you with it, so it's not necessarily that fast, it's dodgeable. So it kind of depends on like how you feel about it from there. But like, one of the main things for me is like, it's not, she is really powerful in her dream world, but it's not like she's invincible because her body's still in there. So like, essentially, if you can beat her body in her dream world, I feel like you should be fine. Again, that's just my own opinion, my own headcanon thought on that one. I don't think that she's like universal or anything. I know a lot of people say that her glamour world is an entire universe. I believe this to be false. It's just like, what's the word I want to say? It's like a pocket dimension. Like, we've seen this before. It was in a filler. I'll try to bring it up. But there was this random diamond mage who was able to trap Asta and Fanzel in like a side dimension, and they were like stuck in there, and they were able to fight and eventually get out. But it was like that, like that guy, that's not a universe. Yeah, that's like one thing that I was thinking about. And then nothing really leads me to believe this is an entire universe. The only thing a lot of people base this on is when Luck said he can't sense a end to it. So he said it was endless. But again, I mean, that's just Luck saying he can't sense the end to it. Just because Luck says something is endless doesn't mean it's endless, because Luck can't sense forever. Like, his mana sensing has a limit. It doesn't just sense everything forever. Like, we could sit here and like argue Luck's, we could argue how far Luck can sense mana, but it's not as far as a lot of people would think. Because if you really think about it, like, if you want to say Luck could sense forever, you would have to argue, well, how come when Luck, Magna, and Vanessa were going to the Diamond Kingdom for recon, he didn't sense Xenon until he was in like eyesight, till he could visibly see him with his eyes, which should not be that far away, like, which isn't that far away. So it's not like he can sense that far. If he could sense endlessly, he could clearly sense what was going on in the Diamond Kingdom before he even got there. But that's not the case. So we can rule him having endless sensing out of the way entirely. So basically, all this was just to say her glamour world is not endless. She is not a universal character, cannot create a universe or anything like that. So she's at number 8. That's that. Number 7, a bit higher up on the list than a lot of other people would probably put him, is William. Now, I understand a lot of people say that William is really weak, and I will even be the first to tell you I don't really think William does that great in a lot of fights. But my main reason from having him up here this high is William is portrayed to be similar to Yami a lot in the story. Like, he is just portrayed to be comparable to Yami, and Yami himself even like says that he matches well with William. I know he's talking about the fact that how their teamwork goes together, but it just seems like Tabata does. It seems like Tabata puts forth extra effort to make them relatable. And this is going to come up in these next couple where I'm going to talk about how the characters relate to Yami. So the fact that William gets related to Yami a lot makes me think that they're really similar, as well as his magic type is really good. I mean, World Tree magic, you have the ability to suck up magic from tons of different people, seeds, all that crazy stuff. So I mean, for me, I feel like just him being related to Yami alone, as well as what I've seen him do, gets him at number 7. Also, side thing about William, I don't care what anybody says, I think William has Monozone. In that magic exam, when all those people, their first time participating in the Magic Knights exam, and he opened up his book and that tree just descended from the sky, casting World Tree magic from the sky, that is what Monozone is. He casted magic from the sky. I don't care what anybody says, he has Monozone. But enough of that, moving on to number 6. Number 6 is going to be Charlotte. Now, again, Charlotte is this high just because she just seems comparable to Yami, and when she was in her elf form, she fought pretty well with Yami. I would argue that she was the winner of that fight. Lots of people like to say it was a draw, but to me, it was a solid win, which makes me believe in her non-elven state, it would be closer to a draw, or she probably would have lost by a little bit. Just because of how her magic works. I mean, Briar magic is really powerful in lots of fighting scenarios, as well as in a overall battlefield scenario, just because it has big AoE attacks with the Briar spikes that can come up, as well as being able to shoot them from the sword or just in general. So I mean, I feel like Charlotte is really useful in a lot of senses, which gets her to be pretty strong. I definitely think she's stronger than all the people down below. That's just my opinion. Of course, you guys can have another one. Just let me know down below. And then moving in to number 5, we're at the top 5 now, well over half at this point. I should have mentioned halfway of on the last one. But at number 5, we're going with Jack. Now, some people might have Jack a little bit higher, but I have him at number 5. A lot of his physical attributes can be considered on par, or at least relative to Yami, so we can kind of just assume that he can do a lot of the same things that Yami does. And his magic can essentially cut through anything, given enough time. His magic adapts and be able to cut through anything. So I mean, that's pretty broken in itself. Just he at any point will eventually be able to cut through whatever you're shooting at him, which makes him pretty dangerous. Just him being comparable to Yami, and that alone is enough. So one of the main things that has him down here number 5 is the fact that I believe him to be a little bit weaker than Yami, as well as his magic isn't really that versatile. Outside of just being able to cut through anything, that's kind of all he can do. I mean, granted, he has reinforcement magic, but so does everybody else, where they can reinforce themselves. So reinforcing things and cutting things can only take you so far. I feel like he lacks a lot of options that other people have. The fact that he just has this raw power got him all the way up here, which is impressive, but I just feel like the other people above him are just stronger and more versatile, or their strength and versatility just outweigh his. So that's why I got him at 5. At number 4, or I guess you could technically call this number 3, I have these two tied. I know a lot of people don't like to see ties, but I just had to have them tied. Would be Fuegoleon and Nozel. Now, I will be the first person to tell you that I think if these two fight, obviously Fuegoleon claps Nozel. I mean, there's lots of arguments with Nozel's speed, just because Nozel has as far as speed goes, he has the best speed feats out of the captains for sure. Like the fact that he was able to fight with Dark Elf Patri was just like undeniable. Now, granted, you can make the argument that his magic type had the advantage. So I mean, he won fairly easily, but the fact that he was able to keep up with him at all, to even because he could have had the magical type advantage, but if he wasn't fast enough to keep up with him, it doesn't matter. Kind of like Patri versus like Gauche. Like, granted, Gauche has the advantage against light magic, but Patri would still clap him just because Gauche is faster. I mean, just because Patri's faster. But like I said, this isn't a 1v1 scenario, which is why I have them tied. I feel like they would beat just about the same amount of people. Granted, I do think that Fuegoleon has a bit more pure power behind his magic attacks, just because fire is just naturally more destructive than Mercury is, as well as him having the Salamander. I want to say their mana pools are relatively similar, but the Salamander definitely would give him that extra boost. And not saying that Fuegoleon isn't as versatile as Nozel, but I mean, he kind of isn't. Nozel's magic is really, really powerful in terms of just adapting for offense and defense, and I feel like it has lots of like other supplementary effects that are extremely useful in a fight, in addition to his feats putting him all the way up here. Like, Nozel could have easily been lower, but his fight with Dark Elf Patri is like undeniable. Like, that fight alone is way more feats than, I wouldn't say Jack, but everybody else below him easily outclasses anything they've done in the series, for sure. Now, at number 2, if you haven't already spammed the dislike button on this video, I'm pretty sure you're going to click it now, would be Yami. I have Yami as the second strongest captain. I know a lot of people have him at 1, but to me, he is the second. Now, we have got no shortage of Yami feats, none at all. Yami he's done it all. He has the Dimension Slash, reacting to the light magic, landed, like, I would argue, the most crucial blow on the Word Devil. Yami has got it going. But I just think the thing that has Yami at number 2 is the fact that I feel like the story portrays Mereoleona to be stronger than Yami, just because Yami appears to kind of be scared of her. So, like, Yami doesn't act like that with anybody else. He acts like that with literally no other character. I know a lot of people, when it comes to Yami's strength, like to bring up the Mana Zone, the Dark Dimension, Equinox, whatever. See, now the thing with this is, a lot of people forget that this is a combo spell. Like, they forget that Charla, or Elf Charlotte Charla, was involved in this. Like, I don't believe he either, 1, would have been able to hit the devil, or possibly 2, like, might have not been able to generate the amount of power to get it there without Charlotte's help. Like, Charlotte's help was absolutely necessary in that moment, or they wouldn't have had her do anything. She wouldn't have done anything if he didn't need her. So it's one of the things, like, yes, it is an extremely powerful spell, but it's one of those things where it isn't like it wasn't as much him as people like to think it was. And then, in addition to Yami and Mana Zone, as far as pre-time skip goes, that was the only time we've seen him use it, and we never seen him use it like how Mereoleona used it. Now, you could argue that post-time skip, he can use it similar to how Mereoleona does, where he like jumps around and uses it to augment his natural key sensing abilities to predict attacks further. But he's doing this in the time skip, and we haven't seen anybody else in the time skip. And this video is pre-time skip, so all that post-time skip doesn't even matter. But one thing that I did take away from post-time skip Yami is that he said that he learned a lot of this stuff through the time skip, which leads me to believe that a lot of these Mana Zone techniques, he did not have them in the Devil Fight, or else we would have seen him using them. We didn't see him kick off in air during the Devil Fight, or talk about having Mana Zone boosting his reaction speed and all that. He never talked about any of that stuff. So it just makes sense to assume that he was not able to do that in the pre-time skip, thus putting his overall like battle senses a little bit below Mereoleona, in my opinion. Now, with Mereoleona being the strongest, you could argue that she is probably like one of the most overhyped captains. Between her and Yami, definitely overhyped, but you know, kind of rightfully so. In my opinion, I know she is portrayed to be on the same level as Fuegoleon, but I truly believe that she is a bit stronger than he is, as well as stronger than Yami is. And that's another thing too, in this like top top 3, or I guess top 4 in this case, I don't really think there's a gap, like, or not like a huge gap in between them. There's not much of a huge gap in between all these people. It's not like one is like significantly more powerful than the other one. It's not like Mereoleona, large gap Yami, larger gap Fuego and Nozel. It's not like that. It's really like Mereoleona right behind her, Yami literally right behind them, Fuego and Nozel. It's not as big a gap as a lot of people may think it is. But yes, Mereoleona fought against 5 L's at the same time, 5 powerful L's at the same time, that you could argue their magic worked together really well. It was the freaking feather magic to help everybody speed, the snow magic to make her weaker, painting magic, which is just good in all scenarios, Raya, who was copying and using 2 magics at the same time, and I forget the 5th person. But with those 4, you already have enough right there. So like, she was able to fight against all 5 of them at the same time and deal, you know, some damage to all of them after she had already been fighting Raya. So that's super impressive. I honestly think if you put any other captain in that exact scenario, maybe like the only ones that would probably be okay would be the other top 4, which would be Yami, Fuegoleon, and Nozel. I think everyone else would struggle immensely or possibly die in that exact same scenario. So yeah, that's my overall strength list. Just for overall power, this is just who I think, you know, would win the most like one-on-one encounters, but not necessarily with each other. Like who has the most range in one-on-one fights, kind of is what overall strength for this list means to me. Now, like I was saying at the beginning of the video, I do have another list for like the best supporting roles, like who you would want to have as like a general and stuff like that. This video ended up being way longer than I thought it was going to be, so I'm going to do that in a separate video so I don't have you guys here for a really long time. So look forward to that. Let me know you guys' list down below. I'm sure there are so many disagreements that people will have down below with this, but that's the fun thing about lists like these, is we can all just kind of have our own lists and have our own like thoughts on who's where and why and all that. So I definitely am super interested to see who you guys think is where, and you guys' comments on my list. Thanks Shotgun for giving me this idea, inadvertently of course, but you know, I should have been did this. So yeah, like and sub to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. I will be your best friend forever. Well, maybe not forever, but I will like you a lot in the moment. But yeah, I'm Quan Credible, and I will catch you guys in my next